Okay to record if it does. You can please record this and play it back to the masses if you wish, you know.
Ladies and gentlemen, a good friend of mine is joining us today. His name is Larry Gordon. He's an author and he's been in media. He actually has some licenses and things that I don't have. And I'm glad to have him be joining us today. Larry, in short, what do you do for a living with what business? And what is your role in that business?
Well, I'm in broadcasting. I'm in radio, as we both know. I'm in Panama City, Florida, where today it was 94 degrees and my hair got all frizzed up. Well, there's not much. At any rate, the bottom line is day to day, I sell advertising. I write commercials. I do voiceover work. I work with clients, sponsors of the radio stations, people who buy the ads. The company I work for in Panama City is called Magic Broadcasting. The company I work for has 4 radio stations, a top 40 station, a news talk station, a classic country station, and one other. And, and 97X, which is new rock / classic rock, sort of. So I sell advertising, news sponsorships, sponsorships of various events that we pull off and we do within the community. The way I view it, the way I've always sort of looked at it, to be frank.
You make the world go round, Larry. If there wasn't business money coming in, wouldn't be that. How do you look at it, Larry?
The difference is with commercial radio stations as opposed to like college radio stations and so forth, which are non-commercial, we prosper the more we sell. The higher we get price-wise rates for the commercials that we sell, 30-second ads, 60-second ads, 15-second ads, newscasts, sponsorships for high school football games, things like that. As we sell that advertising, that's what keeps the stations afloat. It is a for-profit organization as opposed to a not-for-profit organization. The way I've always kind of viewed it, and this is just maybe only my viewpoint, I don't know, but the way I try to look at it is day to day, I don't really look at it like I'm selling advertising as much as 1 minute I might be selling shoes for a shoe store, and the next hour I might be selling cars for a car dealership or dinners for a restaurant or milkshakes for a McDonald's. In other words, I try to put myself in the place of the potential client and then try to view it from their perspective. What can we say about their place of business in order to get people in the community to come in and patronize that place of business? Again, whether it's shoes, cars, dinners somewhere, bowling, motorcycles, tourist attractions on Panama City Beach. What I constantly do through the day is try to put on multiple hats, viewing things from the client's perspective to get him the most bang for his buck, the most people in the door as we can get in for the money they want to invest in the ads they buy.
So to put it shortly, your perspective is that you're an ambassador for the businesses that use the radio station to reach their potential customers.
That is correct. All of us in sales and the radio stations themselves are here to public licensing by the FCC. We have to meet certain requirements. And what we try to do is keep it clean, keep it nice, and let everybody know this is where you need to go if you need a hamburger, or this is where you go if you want to buy a new pair of shoes.
You're the bridge, you're the connector between an audience member, and that business.
And that's what an account executive, a salesperson like myself does. There are 4 or 5 of us on staff there. Through the day, each of us are going in different directions, partially because I'm the elder statesman of the radio stations, you might say. I'm the oldest person there and have been doing it longer than anyone else. A lot of people do turn to me to try to get questions answered, how to best write a piece of ad copy that'll trigger a response from the listenership, when best to place those ads on which stations to reach the right demographic for the business. In other words, for an example, if you had a young teenage girl's dress shop, you may not necessarily want to run ads on our news talk station, which lends itself to a much older male audience, 50 and above. because those 50-year-old plus men typically are not going to be buying dresses for teenagers unless it's their granddaughter for Christmas or whatever. So you have to match the station up and its audience to the prospective client to make sure that they're going to get the most response from the ads. And that's a tricky deal sometimes.
Right. So your job is simple on its face, but it's relationships. It's connecting an audience. It's connecting a product or a service with those who might need it.
Correct.
And you get paid, you yourself profit from that by making that connection. Sales is a wonderful field to get into. And it's not just in radio. It exists on the internet, it exists in TV, it exists anywhere. And you could take the skills you've learned, your relationship building skills, Larry, and go and work almost anywhere. I was reading a study that approximately 1 in every 11 jobs is sales related.
And the thing I like about a sales job, if I may, is that
I was
working on a commission, it's very different than working in a fast food restaurant, or you pick the business, I don't care what it is, getting paid by the hour, because you've got to put in 40 hours plus a week to get that base salary. Well, many days in 3 hours, I can sell enough advertising with the amount that I will get paid commission wise, which in this market is 20% commission, local direct. So for every $100 that client buys, I put $20 in my pocket, so to speak. You sell a $10,000 or $15,000 schedule, you take 20% of that, you can make a couple of $1,000s of your own so that you can pay your bills and you can go out and patronize those sponsors yourself. And the thing I like about being on a commission, I've always liked that. I've never wanted to work for an hourly wage, is because depending on how wisely I use my time, and that really is the bottom line key in sales, is time management. If you don't waste time by playing on Facebook or doing things like that when you should be dealing with a client, if you spend your time focused on what you need to do Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, or whatever days of the week you work and sell, you can make a lot more money than the average person who's working for a minimum wage per hour.
I think that's about as well said, had I really thought about it, that I would have said that right there. Now,
you have a direct say in your income.
You have you work harder, you can work more effectively, you can make more money. Now,
I've always viewed it differently. Work smarter. If you really manage your time and you find the right clients to nurture, and you get the bigger spending clients on the air, you don't have to juggle. You don't have to be a juggler juggling 100 accounts a month. You can juggle 20 accounts a month and pay them more heed, pay more attention to them, and you reap the benefit.
A huge thing, and I wanted to make an impression on the student body that this is gold. If you enjoy kind of the back and forth and people, and learning what each individual person needs, it's kind of relationship management. Now, moving on from that a little bit, you've enjoyed working in radio.
If I may inject something to what you just said, you have to learn to read people. And that is not an easy thing for most people to learn to do. Sometimes it is innate. For me, it happens to be innate. I can go in and sit down with a client and within 5 seconds pretty much tell you what he's going to ask me, whether he's a numbers guy and he wants to see results from the Nielsen survey, or whether he's a feel-good guy who wants to hear stories about how we've made it work for someone that's a competitor of his, how we made this paint store sell a whole lot more paint because we used slice of life commercials in which mom and dad are talking. I've got some commercials running right now for an example. I'm going to give you a prime example. There's a place here in town that is called Van Horn's Auto Salvage. They buy junk cars and sell parts. And I told him, I said, would you trust my judgment on putting together at least 1 or 2 of these 4 or 5 commercials in a way I think they ought to be done? And he said, you've been doing it long enough. Tell me what you got in mind. So I cut him 4 or 5 spec spots, speculative commercials, and one of which was in theater of mine, a woman who is a DJ that works with one of our stations, who's nagging her husband. And she says, Henry, when are you going to get that junk car out of the front yard? And then I sliced over to the hurricane. I said, you know, Hurricane Michael blew through here and damaged that car, and it's been sitting on blocks for 2 years and it's never going to run. Sell it. And then the voice kicks in and says, Van Horn Auto Parts buys junk cars. All you got to do is give us a call. We'll come pick it up. That'll be putting money in your bank account and make your wife happy. And when I played them, that it was a little more complex than that, but the general idea is slice of life. Mom, dad, she's looking out the front window in the front yard with a car sitting up on blocks that was damaged by a hurricane, knowing her husband's never going to fix it. And she's finally badgered him enough to get rid of it. Well, that same thing happens after a hurricane. We've had a lot of cars on concrete blocks. The guy told me at Van Horn, the first week that thing ran, they had 20-something people call up saying, okay, my wife is telling me I got to call you and get rid of this car. And they've been doing great business because of the ads we created. And that was based on the fact I read the guy thinking that he probably would like a feel-good commercial, slice of life, real life, rather than just based on this is the Nielsen survey. This tells us how many people we've got listening, and they can buy if you let me run you some ads. I gave him more of a reason to want to do it. And it worked.
Like that.
Anyway, go ahead.
So moving from what you do in the description and how you do it, some great advice there. For who we're interviewing in front of, our high school student body today, what would be your career advice, maybe for those who are interested in media? You kind of get to do it all and make a little bit of money at the same time while having fun. But what would be your advice?
I started out, I graduated college with a degree in speech and drama from a college called Clayton State College, which is it was part of the University of Georgia school system. Go Bulldogs. I bleed red and black. But anyway, graduated there. Then I went to the Atlanta School of Radio and Television Broadcasting, graduated there. This was in 1968. I'll be honest about it. I've been in radio 52 years. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't have stayed. And I started off as a DJ and was a DJ for the first 22 to 25 years. I worked in major markets like Atlanta, in Savannah, Georgia. In Savannah, I was on the air at a radio station in the daytime and delivered the 11 o'clock news at night on a TV station there. I was on the air the night Richard Nixon resigned because of Watergate. I know that predates many of your students, but look it up. It really did happen. And he was president back in the 70s, early 70s. But anyway, I started off as a DJ, and that's where my interest started in broadcasting. I wanted to be a DJ. I thought I had a decent voice. I thought I had a fairly good command of the English language, which I guess I do. And I started off as a DJ. And after about 25 years, I realized that I wanted to stay in Panama City, and I had the opportunity to bridge over into sales and still stay on the air for the first few years. So I sort of weaned myself off of being a DJ and worked myself into full-time sales and have stayed there ever since. If some of your students have a creative gift of gab and they want to be in the limelight a little bit, radio can be great. TV can be great. You know, if they get into TV, you know, look at the Weather Channel and the people that are on there. You know, you can work your way up the food chain, generally starting in a smaller market. Even though you get the experience through education, you then have to apply that. And so a lot of the time, small market radio is a good way to start out, because if you make mistakes, it's not quite as bad. And all of us make mistakes and have made mistakes on the air. You know, open mouth, insert foot. I've been there, done that. But I try to learn from my mistakes. But starting off in broadcasting, in radio and or TV, is a good way to go to have fun with a career, meet a lot of people. If you have an outgoing personality, if you never meet somebody that's not a friend or a future friend, you can make it in this business if you just stay with it.
Some good advice. And you got to try some different things out before. Now you probably wouldn't go back.
No. I wouldn't undo what I've done. I might do a few things differently, but, you know, in the same regard, we all, you know, hindsight's 20/20. So
Good,
But
good
I would
work.
have stayed in broadcasting. I do enjoy it. I really think it's a good profession to be in. I think there's over 10 or 12,000 radio stations in this country. Not quite sure exactly how many TV stations there are, but in most major markets, like in Panama City, we've got 3 stations here, plus other markets that feed in. Anywhere you go, you're going to be subject to TV and or radio, and you can enjoy that life and see a lot of the country if you choose to do that.
I think I'll stop the recording right there.